Apple CEO Tim Cook apparently didn't want to have Elon Musk over for a liquid lunch. Yahoo Finance tech editor Dan Howley has more on this. Dan, this is certainly creating quite the stir over the past 24 hours. Who comes out looking worse? Tim Cook for not taking a meeting with Elon Musk when his market cap was what, 60 billion? Now it's almost 700 billion now. Or Elon Musk for just not getting the deal done?
I don't know who really looks worse. I mean, when you look at when Elon Musk was seemingly shopping around Tesla at this point, it was during what he called the darkest days of the Model 3, which has been dubbed the production hell time for Tesla, when they were trying to ramp up production of that vehicle. And you had Elon Musk sleeping on the floor of his factory. You had him, obviously, there were the issues with the construction of the outdoor production line for the Model 3 and whether or not they would actually meet the demands that they had said they would. So, when you look at it that way and how the position that the company was in, Musk had said that they were in single-digit weeks away from going under because they just didn't have enough money at the time to continue to operate. It seems to make sense that Tim Cook would have said, I think we're going to pass on this guy. But you don't know if this was something where, Elon Musk had reached out to a number of different CEOs or tech executives who may have been able to help the company along. It is interesting, though, to note that, obviously Tesla's shares have skyrocketed this year, nearly 600%. But I do want to point out that at one point, Apple did seemingly want to purchase Tesla. Craig Irwin of Roth Capital Partners in 2019 said that Apple had sought to acquire Tesla at $240 a share way back in 2013. So it seems as though there, was this kind of on again, off again flirtation between the two companies. But really now I think, Tesla appears to be on its way and not, suffering from the kind of issues it had before. But, again, its stock price has climbed incredibly high this past year. So we'll have to see if it can keep that kind of momentum up and what it means if it starts to run out of things like those EV credits that have really been helping to drive its revenue the past few quarters. Once those dry up, will the company be in a position to continue to drive revenue on sales alone?
I mean, there are so many different aspects that are interesting to this story, Dan. I mean, at first blush, when I saw that tweet from Elon Musk, I thought there had to be more to the story. How did he reach out to Tim Cook? Was it really a real offer? Was Tim Cook really as dismissive as, it doesn't feel like the whole story of how this potentially went down. And it's also really difficult to imagine culturally a Tesla inside an Apple. It would be difficult to see Elon Musk selling his company and him not coming along with it, and then Elon Musk residing inside of a company like Apple, no?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it would be two big personalities. Tim Cook on the outside, obviously he has kind of this easygoing mentality, but he's the CEO of Apple. He didn't get there by being, the nicest, easiest going person ever. And I you got to imagine that him and Elon Musk, who is obviously incredibly outspoken and loves to use his Twitter following to whatever effect he pleases, you would imagine that they would butt heads. I think the interesting thing, though, is that whenever we talk about, the new reports about Apple working on its own car, the conversation tends to be, well, it's going to be a rival to Tesla. There have been talks, though, about Apple perhaps partnering with a Tesla to push forward its automotive ambitions. So, whether that's the self-driving technology, some kind of infotainment system, things along those lines. But, I think that also would be kind of a long shot to a degree, just because there were reports a few years ago that Apple had talked to BMW and Mercedes about putting its software into their vehicles, but they wanted so much control over the design process that those companies balked at that idea. So you would imagine then that there would be headbutting between the two if they even tried to do software. So I really don't know how much Elon Musk would have fit into the culture of Apple and vice versa. I think it's obviously a better idea that they're separate. But, if you think of any car on the road today, I mean, what's the closest thing you would say to an Apple car? It would be a Tesla.
Dan, you're the Apple whisperer here. Really, how likely is it that there's an iCar around over the next decade? A car actually made by Apple, no other partner. I mean, there's a whole series of events that has to happen here. Battery technology, regulatory concerns, and who do they work with on suspensions? I mean, there's a whole, it's not just poof, you plop out a car from a factory.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because you talk about the Apple Car, and look, this is like Bigfoot or aliens or the Loch Ness Monster, right? It's been talked about and whispered. It's been coming, and then it's not coming, and then it's coming again. It's the car, and then the technology, and oh no, we're going to go to the car. It's hard to predict whether or not they would actually do something like this. It's a $2 trillion company. So if anybody can do it, it would be Apple. And they do know how batteries work, obviously. They do know how sensors work. They do have the supply chain capabilities. Obviously, building a car is a lot different than building consumer electronics, but they do have an understanding of that. And I think that if there is a company that would enter into the space and do it successfully, it would be Apple. But there's a lot kind of riding on that idea. As you point out, the regulatory issues. Gene Munster of Loop Ventures pointed out, what happens if someone gets into an accident in an Apple-driven car and passes away? That's something that they would have to deal with. That doesn't happen with an iPhone or an iPad. So I think that's it's one of the issues. But it would be really interesting to see. And they have ambitions in this space. This is not something that isn't something that they've been working on. They did have the plans to have an Apple Car, and I think that it might come. It really might. 2024, like the Reuters report, that's very close. I don't see that happening. We're almost in 2021. 3 years from now, having an Apple Car on the road, I don't think that's going to happen. But maybe 10 years, we could see something like that happen. $2 trillion company. Why not?
Well, I know if there is an iCar hitting the roads, you, Dan Howley, will have an electrifying review for Yahoo Finance. Good to see you, bud.